I want to do a little bit of Kathy's breathing, and before we do it, I just want to talk a little bit of the context for it. So I'm going to say to sit comfortably, and if this is comfortable, great. You might want to take a look at how you cross your legs, because we always have one way that we like to cross. So you can, if you switch it up, sometimes that changes the hips, so that's one thing to keep in mind. And also, if you have tight hamstrings, especially for the guys, Kathy would let you roll up a little something. Actually, up in her studio, she had a pillow that you could sit on, but it was just something that sort of relieved the hamstrings from having to sit up, so that you could really concentrate on sitting up tall. And just about the breathing in general, Kathy had many different kinds of breathings, and I think the biggest thing about them is that they were about you listening to your body. For instance, the accordion breathing, you breathe into the sides of the body, and some of us breathe only on one side. Like, for instance, my daughter likes to come and sleep and snuggle with me here. I only breathe this way, I've noticed. So this accordion breathing is about you feeling what's going on with you for the day. So, this is a part of her warm-up. So when she's breathing into the sides, Alana can feel if she's breathing more on one side than the other. Or, sometimes you always breathe on one side, and one day you go and actually you're breathing on the other side now. And so this is a way for you to check in. And then she also had this other breathing that we're going to do later called it was the straw breathing, and exit through number 3. So the straw was about learning how to inhale and draw the belly in. And then the exhale through number 3 was my favorite, because when I sat up tall, I did this, right? And so the only way I could get that down was by saying exhale through number 3. And see how her shoulders just release, and it just kind of relaxes the body. That was my way of, people talk about knitting the ribs together. That never works for me, but if I think of exhaling through number 3, that helps me find those upper abs. So these are just little tools and tricks for you to play with. If it works, great. If not, then keep breathing the way you're breathing. Kathy would never make you breathe a way where she said, I want you to breathe this way only. And because if it didn't work, then it doesn't work, and go to what works for you. And that's the great thing about Kathy's breathing, is that you got to pick and choose. So for instance, if you were doing the hundreds and you run out of, so for some people who percussively exhale, she'd say, go to an accordion breathing, a nice smoother breathing. You just got to play around and see what works, because sometimes you run out of different kinds of breath. So think about that as we go into some of these breathings. It's very funny. There are people who like to breathe out loud and people who don't. And with Kathy, you got, it was a group class setting, and there's something very lovely. It's almost like oming together. Like when you hear everyone going, shh, it's sort of like that group experience. And so if that's not the experience you're looking for, my request is that you just try it, because sometimes making the sound, like whistling out loud if you can, actually helps. But, just try it. But, you can do all kinds of breathing without making the noise, but just try it to see if it works. And when I talk about exit through number 3, I will send to Kathy, well, why number 3? And I think it came from, there was a while where Kathy had, she would use the image of a button-down shirt. And she would say, that's about where the 3rd button is right between your breasts. Or but then people weren't wearing button-down shirts anymore, and so she let go of that image. And then I'd say, well, where's 1 and 2? And she'd cheekily say, well, 1 and 2 are for you to think about it. Yeah, I know. She'd just say sassy stuff like that. So 3 really is right between the breasts, or at that sternum. She'd say, exhale at your sternum, or number 3. So when I talk about number 3 in that exhale, that's where it is. And Kathy would make you breathe out loud, but if it doesn't work, don't do it, but try it. Or like 3 times, or sometimes.